It's time to talk about a 308 battle rifle. You're watching the Nut and Fancy project. It's 2013 and I'm finally getting around to this review. Hallelujah. And I'll start off by giving you a very short review, if you're in a hurry, about the Saiga 308. Now, of course, the Saiga comes in all types of different calibers. I'm going to concentrate on this one, the Saiga 308, because I kind of think it has its own distinct philosophy of use. And my mini review will go as follows. If you have realistic expectations of the Saiga 308, you're going to love it.
Nice. Left side.
If you have unrealistic expectations of the gun, I think you may be disappointed with it. It is, after all, an AK variant rifle with a stamped receiver shooting a 7.62-51 chambering. In my experience, it is not ultimately accurate. I'll show you in depth over a 3-year period of what I found out about this particular gun. That's right, it's been in TMP for 3 years. And we'll explore the accuracy issue in detail as I know it. And you will have different data from different folks. I just show you what I find out from one sample shooting with my crew. Realistic expectations. It is an AK, so it's going to be reliable. With a huge caveat, we'll foot stomp this one again. You got to get good mags for it. Paired with very reliable mags that you have tested through, I will say, several hundred rounds, you're going to be happy with your Saiga 308. Says me. I'm happy with the TMP Saiga 308 right here. So, if you expect it to be reasonably accurate, reliable with the right mags, oh yeah, this is another important part of my mini review. Don't expect it to be super lightweight. If you modify it the way, obviously, the gun on the table has been modified, then I think you're going to love it. Especially for the price paid. Because it kind of has its own value equation compared to, I don't know, choose any other 308 battle rifle. They're very expensive. I've talked about that on camera before. For whatever reason, when you get a tactical carbine, you throw it into a 308 chambering, or whatever you want to call it, 7.62-51, double the price, triple the price. That's what you're paying. The Saiga 308 is very affordable, at least has been in years past. Who knows what the future holds? Who knows what availability models will come and go with the Saiga 308, whether it will be imported or not, I don't know. But years past, very affordable, a great gun for the money, once again, with realistic expectations. There's your mini review, 3 minutes, 43 seconds into the actual video. Now, if you're going to stick around for the details, I highly recommend you do. I will show you the data, how I've arrived at that conclusion, and we'll jump off into the video, I should say, by talking about how the Saiga arrives to our shores. And a lot of AK guys know this already. Perhaps you don't. And by the way, I say Saiga. I know it can be pronounced Saiga, however you want to, vary the pronunciation. I just Americanize it. So Saiga. That's what it's going to be for the review. Embrace it. It's actually made in the same factory as actual AK rifles are made. And I've always called it IZHMASH. Again, you can do the Russian pronunciation. I just can't Americanize it. But being made in the same factory as an AK variant rifle, you can expect Russian quality with this gun. And it's actually a factory new weapon. Now, I'm going to talk about the modifications, the 922R stuff done on this gun, the Saiga to transform it into what you see on the table. No worries, we'll get there. But as it arrives, it's in its sporting configuration, and that is with a sporting stock, no pistol grip, no muzzle devices, and I think it arrives with either a 5-round or 8-round magazine. I think the one that came with this gun was a 5-rounder. But at the heart of the gun is an AK with all the Russian quality, and it's a new manufacturer gun, so it's not piecemealed from some Polish rifles, some other Eastern European rifles. No, new manufacturer. And for a round, I don't know, I'll jump into value real quick. I think the price will run around $700 now, but back when we obtained this gun in 2010, it was run around $460. That's a lot of gun for the money. A lot of gun for a true Kalashnikov. Out of the same factory. On to philosophy of use. I'd really like this video to be 25 minutes. I just don't know if I can do it. I'll try. Battle rifle. Could you use it as a primary go-to 308 chambered battle rifle? I would say yes, with the things we talked about at the outset being squared away with the Saiga 308. An AK is freaking reliable. It really is. Again, the magazine's an integral part of that system. It has to be squared away too. But assuming you have a good magazine system for your Saiga, I just don't think you're going to have any problems with reliability.
Reload. Nice.
It inherits that, you know, that pedigree of reliability, the Kalashnikov pedigree of reliability. That's a huge plus. And let me tell you, after having reviewed several 308 battle rifles here in TMP, I see a lot of problems with them. You know, you shoot them hard, you run them hard, they go down. This part breaks, that part breaks, there's a hiccup here. You've seen it on camera. I'm very honest in the reviews. I show you when that happens. I don't care what make, model it is, I'll tell you. I didn't see any breakages over the 3-year period with the Saiga 308. Consider that. We did see some, you know, hiccups with a magazine. Talk about that in firepower. Battle rifle, I would say yes. And along with that, I would say WROL rifle. Absolutely. With the stuff I've always talked about, if you're opting for a larger cartridge, a 308 cartridge, you better be in shape, boy. Because that's a lot of weight you're going to be taking. A lot of weight. Extra weight. Now, if you're planning on sticking around the cottage, whatever, the double wide, awesome. You don't think you're going to have to be very mobile? Great.
We're trying to minimize
could happen.
Element here.
But, you know, along with that increased capability of the 7.6251 comes increased weight. And I've always said in my past 308 battle reviews, if I know I'm going to a windy environment or I'm going to be shooting longer range, let's say past 300 meters, I like the 308. And if I can take it, I'm taking it. Also, it has superior obstacle defeation capabilities. You know, glass, light obstacles like walls, 308 is much better. It's not like a huge powerhouse. I'm not talking 50 BMG here or 338 Lapua. You know that. For that matter, 300 Win Mag. But it is better than a 223.
That's a hit, I think.
How about a hunting gun?
Actually, maybe it's rock.
Absolutely. In fact, obviously, that's how a Saiga 308 is marketed. The current version, I shouldn't say current, but a version I see on IZHMASH's website shows it in its wood configuration. They've marketed that in Europe for a number of years. I've seen them here on occasion in the United States. Hunting gun in 308 caliber. Is a 308 suitable for most North American game? I would say yes, as long as you don't get crazy with it. And I would say crazy might be going past 300 meters or so. Talking meters, this review for some reason. So until we get to accuracy.
Awesome.
If you do that, I think you'll be fine with it, especially with a proper load.
Okay, so it was.
The plot will thicken again, like I always say, when we get to accuracy of what load the gun will like. Will it throw it accurately? That's up to you to test and refine that. And every gun may be an individual, but hunting gun, absolutely, it'd be a great hog gun. As we practice jihad against the feral pigs throughout the southeastern United States, I wish all hunters great luck in this righteous endeavor, by the way, because they are overrunning the environment, wreaking havoc on farms, lands, people's gardens, pets. Yeah, blow those things out off the face of the earth, I say. Yeah. It is not, we're talking POU here still, dudes. It's not a sapper.
Dude, look at how dirty.
Now that's my acronym. I've always used it here in TMP, and by sapper I mean a semi-automatic precision rifle. It is not that. Remember, it's a 308 rifle with what I think is a 1.5 millimeter stamped steel receiver shooting a 308.
Damn dirty.
That's a lot of vibration for a non-free floated barrel for one, a 16-inch barrel for another, and for a stamped steel receiver finally. So I wouldn't consider it a sapper. A sapper to me would be something, and you'll notice that I won't say this in philosophy of use. A sapper would be something I'd put in the hands of a police sharpshooter who you can make a shot at, I don't know, 100 yards with a hostage rescue. You need an accurate gun for that. I would recommend something like the FNAR, FNFNAR, anti-pirate rifle was the name of that review. That's all for philosophy of use right now. How about innovation, design, and ergonomics, weight balance, and feel? I'm just going to roll that all into one. I'll start off by saying, as the gun came to us in 2010, I know it's been a long time, it was weighing, I believe, 8 pounds in its naked form with a 5-round magazine. That is no pistol grip stock, no optics, no muzzle device, just a simple sporting configuration AK variant rifle in 308. 8 pounds. Not super light, but not super heavy either. Now, if you watch my reviews, you'll know that these not AKs, but these 308 rifles are always going to be a little bit heavier, maybe a lot heavier. It just works out that way. Expect when you put optics and some accessories on them, you're going to be looking at least 10 pounds. But realistically, when you do the 922R conversion, which this Saiga 308 has, without optics, without a magazine, it's 9 pounds 4 ounces. Full up, I wrote that down. This, by the way, is a Weaver 2.5 by 7 in a KVAR KV-04 mount, which I like. It just sits really high above the bore. But this has been ran pretty hard. It's been a great mount. Actually, a pretty good optic, too. It's not a ballistic reticle. 9 pounds 10 ounces with a magazine and the scope and rail off the gun. There's one reason why this is so heavy. You guessed it. We'll get there. Starting back here, though. Can you just live with a Saiga 308 stock as it comes out of box is a question. I actually didn't mind it. I didn't mind it at all. I could have been very happy with it. There are some other things I wanted out of it, though. One was an improved trigger. And then another would be to get rid of the freaking blast and recoil out of this 16-inch barrel in its stock form, which was substantial. I mean, I posted a video of us running this, I think way back in 2010. PFI dude myself, barrel had nothing on it, and it was dusk, the sun was setting, and the fireball coming out of this was like a freaking flamethrower at Iwo Jima. It was distracting, and then there was some recoil too. Blast, recoil, it was just distracting. Could you man up and shoot it? Yeah, we did, and we actually scored pretty good with the gun, but both of us left that day going, this gun needs some work. So that was another thing. So the trigger, eliminate that, and so the list started growing and growing of things I was unhappy with as the Saiga came out of box. And then I was like, well, let's just do a 922R. Now, if you don't know what 922 are, look it up. There's a whole article in Wikipedia about it. It talks about the legality, the number of parts, US-made parts that have to be present in a gun that has been imported and thus converted to accept so-called high-capacity magazines. I call them normal capacity magazines. That's what the gun's designed for. So I talked to PFI dudes, like, let's just do a 922R on it. Let's just do a full conversion. And then it's really a fun thing to do because now you're talking about turning your gun into a project. That might be a whole different philosophy of use. It's a project gun. He's like, hey, you know, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this. Probably target shoot, maybe a little tactical shoots, maybe a course here and there. But I want to project it. So the question is, when you do this to a Saiga 308, what do you do? Well, my recommendation is don't get out of control with weight. You can really dick up your Saiga 308 in terms of weight. Now, I know what you may be thinking. You're like, well, dude, this, you said full up, 10 pounds, 14, whatever it was, with the scope and rail. True, but believe it or not, there's Saiga 308s that weigh a lot more than that, depending on what the guys have done with it. I know, because I've seen them, I hefted them. I'm trying in this conversion to make it as light as I possibly can with improved ergonomics, improved shootability, perhaps improved accuracy. So that's kind of my foundation. I recommend you do the same. If you have a Saiga of any caliber, we're talking 308 here, just have a good game plan. Hey, this is what I want the gun to do when I'm all done with it. So adjustable stock. You can see a mag pull on there. And by the way, the person that did all the conversion here was PFI dude. He's been doing Saigas forever. There's his link, his web store on the top. He actually has a brick and mortar store now in Ogden, Utah. I recommend you go in there and punch him in the shoulder for me. Say that's from nutnfancy. He does great Saiga work, man. He does Saiga 12 work. He does Saiga rifle work, as you can see. I was really happy with the conversion. First up, again, the stock. Okay, so just a simple one. I think we're running a commercial tube on that. I don't know the brand of backing plate he has on that. He has his sources. And I put a Tafco saw grip on it, which It's very non-traditional AK, but let's face it, I mean, when you go in to convert a Saiga sporting rifle into a variant like this, you're going to depart from that traditionalism. And I wanted a bigger grip. Shooting gloved hands in the winter, it's just so much more comfortable. I love that grip. Is it the best looking one around? I don't know. You know, that US Palm battle grip is pretty wicked. I like that too. So, happy with the grip. The trigger actually had to be moved forward from the sporting configuration. PFI did all that. Carolina Shooter Supply trigger guard. Love it. It's outstanding. And along with that, we put a new trigger in. So that was one of my goals. More shootability, lighter trigger. This one pulls, I think, at around, I lost my trigger scale, but when I measured it, around 4 pounds is all. It is not a Tapco G2. I know that's what you're thinking. It's actually a Red Star, and I think it's adjustable as well. It was not an easy install in this rifle. In fact, I found the instructions for that tonight looking around. Red Star Arms trigger. PFI dude slapped that one in. I was like, yeah, I want to put that in. I've done Tapco G2s. They're okay. They're kind of like a double action pull to me. I said, let's go with something different. So that's what we did. Red Star. And this is the best AK trigger I have, shot yet. Look, it says it will not fit Saiga rifles. Well, with some modification it will. He had to do some grinding on the trigger blade itself, he said, and it got it in there. This is a Krebs safety lever, by the way, and it has a charging handle notch in it for reloads, like that. I think it's pretty sick. Excellent. Tell you about that before I forget. And then the Saiga out of box came with a bolt hold open, and it functions as such. I got the tripod in the way, so I'll try to show you this. So it doesn't hold the bolt all the way to the rear, partially, but then you can just sweep it off like that. It's nice. So the later Saigas do have that. The trigger shoots great. I'm very happy with it. It's a huge improvement over the stock Saiga trigger. I recommend, just for that reason alone, you do a 922R conversion on your Saiga, if that's what you want. Talking about ergonomics, innovation design. It is a standard stamped AK receiver, just like we talked about. There's your markings on that side. And this one was imported once upon a time by Russian American Armory Company, as you can see there. They no longer bring them in. And those companies will change as the years go on, assuming these can continue to be imported. You know, who's bringing them in now? FIME, I think. I'm not really sure. But anyways, there you go. XY stampings on there, as per AK specification. No dimples in the 308 version. You don't need them. You see the fit on the magazine. Slight rock. Nothing major. Not that I saw that it would be a reliability problem as of yet. Subject to change. Magazine retention. Shown right there. Standard charging handle, AK version. Standard rear sight, AK. And that takes us to the forend. Again, the forend as it came out of box wasn't bad. I mean, I thought it was pretty comfortable. I'm talking the Saiga 308. What it didn't have is a way to attach any lights or grips on it. Yeah, so if you want to shoot at night, which we do all the time in our drills, it's kind of nice to have a pick rail here. I used this once, I think. And this is, by the way, an SGM Tactical forend. And I think it's only around 45 bucks. Not free-floated. And it'll fit all models of Saiga, not just a 308. That's a nice thing about getting a Saiga 308, by the way. Unlike a Vepr, is that it's not a proprietary. Is that if it fits an AK variant rifle, it'll probably fit a Saiga. Awesome. 90-degree gas block, just like we saw in the Arsenals, other Saiga converted rifles. There's your graduations on the rear sight, out to 300 meters. I think that is much more realistic. We've seen on some AK variant rifles how it goes, I don't know, what, out to like 1,200, something ridiculous like that. And that'll take us to, let me talk about this, the barrel. Profile on the barrel on the Saiga 308s is perfect. Not super heavy, and it's not super light. It's a great blend for a 7.62 chambered gun. Now, if you go with a Vepr, I think the main competition to this rifle is going to have a heavier barrel. It's going to have a heavier receiver, an RPK style receiver, and it's going to be heavier overall. Is it good weight? I don't know. You decide. Depends on what you want to do with the gun. I'll just throw that in there now that we need to start thinking about the Vepr because it does compete against this gun. Quite well, I'll say. In some ways, and depending where you come from, maybe not so much. Great barrel. It's hammer forged, chrome lined chamber, chrome lined bore. Not chrome lined gas tube, which I've always hated. Because if you shoot corrosive ammo in there, you're going to have to crack that gas tube open as soon as you possibly can and scrub it out. If you don't, it's going to rust. Speaking from experience. Onto the muzzle. Now, I would really like it if this was an 18-inch barreled gun, and maybe, just maybe, it would shoot more accurately. It would definitely reduce the blast. It would definitely add weight to the gun. Okay, but I think most guys prefer the 16-inch barreled guns on a .308 battle rifle philosophy of use. From what I know now. A lot of guys do. But out of box, as a plain barrel, forget it. I did not enjoy. We already talked about that. The blast, the recoil, and so we talked about, and talked to PFI dude myself, like, how do we fix this? And we go to the market, see what the market has available for this gun. We could have eliminated the front sight, turned, that is, threaded the barrel for a muzzle device of whatever kind, 7.62 caliber. And there's some great ones out there. I've talked about a few. The problem with that is I lose the front sight capability. Now, if we talk about ergonomics, it's standard AK sighting capabilities on the Saiga 308. Not perfect. I mean, I'd really like the sight to be back here. Kind of like, was it Texas Weapon Systems dogleg scope rail? You're able to relocate it back here. Longer sight radius. That's a cool option. You could put it on this gun, by the way. So I want to retain the front sight, which incidentally, I'm running a very thin front post in this one. Can you see it? And I'm doing that for drills, maximum accuracy. I don't know if that's the best front post for a serious, use for this gun. So what we opted for, talking about the muzzle, is to put this on SGM Tactical, once again, muzzle brake. There are some good points to this. One is its weight, and it's substantial, really dampens the gun. I mean, when it's on, it's on. Even when you're firing, it's very settled. It has a completely different shooting dynamic that it used to have, which was very unsettled. Getting back on target, trying to recover your eardrums, your buddy who's filming next to you trying to recover your eardrums. No, this solved all the problems. It does what SGM says it does from what I've seen now, and that is it dampens out the recoil and minimizes some of the flash. It's made out of 4140 steel, and it requires at least 3/16 of an inch from your barrel to mount. That's all to the good. It looks good too. It blends well. Downsides. It's freaking 14 ounces. The SGM Tactical, flash suppressor. That's a lot. I know. That's what I'm saying. So when we talked about the weight, when I came up forward, I was making a point that if you could peel that off, you're saving almost a pound off the gun. Now, down the road, will I be motivated to take this off, go ahead and kill the front sight, turn it? Maybe. I think one of the considerations is you can't really lathe up this barrel for a precision turn. And if I was going to thread the barrel, I'd want it to be a standard 7.62 thread so I could run a suppressor off of it. And if you're going to run suppressor, you better make sure you have a very precise threading job. Otherwise, you can get a baffle strike and toast your suppressor, your silencer. Okay, so there you go. There's some considerations. It's not all peaches and cream when you say, oh yeah, I'm just going to thread it. Okay, who's going to do the job? Can it be done right?
Good job.
Are you good with never having your front sight again? There might be some options to restore irons on this thing. The feel as it is, I ain't gonna lie to you, and I haven't been, is freaking heavy. It's heavy. That's the way it feels. Now, when you put on the optics, it's even more so. And by the way, I still like the old AK rail. I know it's way high. You have a chin weld, not a cheek weld, but it still works. The balance is, here we go with more honesty, is a little bit slow into action because we've put that 1 pound muzzle device up where it's the worst possible place, and that is where you're going to be swinging, getting your gun into action. Granted, the 16-inch barrel helps a little bit, but just a consideration. But overall, the ergonomics have been transformed. Great pistol grip, totally adjustable. Granted, AR style of stock. This is not, again, an ode to the AK design. This is trying to just overall improve it with what the market has to offer. I love these two items. Trigger, vastly improved. I like this. The Krebs safety with a notch in it. You know, the what am I trying to say? The SGM tactical forend. And that is a love-hate situation. I think I made that pretty clear. They do have a 22-inch barreled version of this gun out there that has been bouncing around in batches in 2013. I would recommend it. And then in that gun, your decision may be made for you. In other words, do you want to be running around with a 22-inch Saiga 308? No. But it'd be a real easy thing to lop it off, since this is a long stroke piston gun, right? The AK, not a gas gun, piston gun, obviously, but some new guys may not know that. So with that, I can cut that barrel off wherever I want. So now we can go to an 18-inch barrel, for instance. I can find someone, hopefully, that can precision turn that, thread it for me, bang, throw on a suppressor or a muzzle device. Just maybe that gun will shoot better than this one did for accuracy. Kind of opening up a new philosophy of use. I would not at all, you know, rule that out, the 22-inch barrel, if that's all you can find out there. I think I got most of it. I may have forgot some stuff. How about firepower? Well, here we go. This is a very important part of every semi-automatic rifle. You guys know that. I'm talking about the magazine. You can really dick up your Saiga 308 if you don't get good ones. The one you've been watching, the gun, is actually not a Surefire, i.e. a SGM tactical magazine. It's this one. It's a new one. Uinta. And it is made in Utah. And I really hate to say this, but I got to be honest with my audience. And this may change. If it does, I'll annotate it right here in the video. I don't recommend them right now. What? I love new companies coming out. I really do. But we had some jams out of this that kind of undermined my confidence in this magazine. Yeah. I mean, it seems well made. It looks right. It feels right. It doesn't seem flimsy at all. It looks like a great competitor to the Surefire mag. But it needs a little bit more work because, like I said, in our last drill in April of this year, we had a couple FTFs out, and I suspect it was a magazine. The one I would probably recommend would be the SGM magazine, which is manufactured according to ISO 9001 compliancy. If you don't know what that means they have to build it really, really good to really, really high quality levels. Anything that's stamped with and certified with ISO 9001 compliancy, in my book, has been stellar. Now, we're not talking a Bulgarian Circle 10 here, right? So this is 7.6239 SGL 21 mag is what we ran this one in. This is still probably my overall favorite mag for those caliber of Saiga converted guns. Love this magazine. AK Palm's good magazine. There's some other ones out there, but this is steel reinforced. See that? Steel here. The whole top is wrapped in steel. You can see it poking out there. Wrapped in steel back here. Metal floor plate. Yeah, these are great mags. They don't make them for the Saiga 308. So all you can do is go out and what do they make for the Saiga 308? Well, Uinta, they've got the SGM, i.e. I think they're called the Surefire mags at one time, but it's the SGM tactical magazine. I've shot that one and it was great. Now, can I bust these tabs? Yeah, probably. I probably can. Again, this is not a Bulgarian Circle 10. If I come here and I put it on the ground, I stomp on this. I'm trying to actually put it muzzle down, stomp on this. Can I break that tab out? Yeah, probably. There's no metal in that other than this spring. Granted, we're looking at the Uinta. Another magazine that is out there, it's not just those two, and there might be some more I'm forgetting, is CS Specs metal magazines. They come in 5, 10, 15, 20 round capacities. They're running about the same price as SGM magazines for about $40 to $50, but I can't recommend that magazine either. On terms of weight, the freaking 20 round magazine empty is 12 ounces. SGM tactical ones, and I think those come in, by the way, 10, 15, and 25 round capacities. They're going to be much lighter, about half the weight. Now, if you don't care about weight, you don't care if your gun weighs 15 pounds, granted I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's super heavy, and you don't care about carrying an LBE system that is 80 pounds because you have 12-ounce magazines, I say rock on. But those are the options for you. Okay, I'd say firepower with a functioning mag that you've tested, a couple hundred rounds. That's right, spend the money, you got to do it. I would say is excellent. On par with the M1A, on par with FN FAL, on par with the others. Actually, in some ways superior, because the standard mag I think most guys are using is going to be the SGM 25 rounder.
I'm still going to give it to you, though.
Materials and quality. I think we hit this mostly already. It's going to be the enamel finish, by the way, coming from IZHMASH. Is that a great finish, Nutton? No, it sucks. Duracoat it or Cerakote your AK if you want it to last. Maybe one day I'll do it with this if I keep it. No, but you know, the important stuff, pretty smoking. The internals are excellent. Chrome, everything inside on the bolt. I shouldn't say everything. Chromed piston, like we talked about, barrel chamber and that stuff. So the important stuff. Which brings us to reliability and durability. The magazine's already hit on the durability. The gun itself, I think, will be extremely durable. At least it has been in our testing. Granted, a sample of one. We didn't have any breakages at all. I told you that already. More than I can say for some other guns I've tested over the years. It's new manufacturer. It's not a Franken gun from a demilled Romanian or Polish gun. We talked about that. I love their barrels. The hammer forged barrels that Saiga does. I've always loved them. But how do they shoot? Well, let's go to the paper. I once upon a time, like in 2010, I had a bunch more targets for you guys. This is what I got now. No. Now, a couple caveats. This is with PFI dude, myself, shooting in April. Windy desert, and we're shooting off a polymer table because we're shooting over brush. Is that ideal? No. That being said, I felt very confident about the platform we're shooting from. I don't think it was, I don't know, contributory to what you're seeing here. So, PMC FMJ. This was me shooting 3 1/4 inch group. This is 100 yards, 103 yards actually. 3.5 inch group from PFI dude, who's an excellent shooter. Am I impressed with that? No, I'm not. How about this one? Different loads too. Winchester PowerPoint 180 grain 4.5 inch group. That sucked. Federal 180 grain soft point. Now this is what I was talking about, the hunting philosophy of use. This load shoots very well out of this particular Saiga 308. It may not out of yours. That is exceptional accuracy out of a stamped AK with a non-free floated barrel, if you ask me. That's exceptional. 16 inch barrel, no less. Hornady 150 grain boat tail soft point, 1.5 inches. That's a great group. What happened to Remington core locked? What the heck? 4.75 inch vertically strung. Same thing with a Federal Premium bonded trophy 165. Started throwing those all over the place, and we felt very confident in our trigger presses. Keep that in mind. So we're like, that was me. Then I don't count it. I'm not going to bring that paper to the table. But if we feel confident in our presses, then I'll throw it out here. By comparison, let's look at an M1A. I think that's kind of fun. So we can kind of get a feel of what that one does. This is a loaded M1A, reviewed a while back. 1.4 inches with a PMC. That same stuff that the Saiga 308 is throwing in a 3.5. Here's another group, another group, another group, another group, another group. So I would call it shooting PMC into about 1.5 to 2 MOA. The Saiga 308 and about 3 to 4. Here's another one. XM762. That shot into 0.3 out of an M1A. 1.8 on that group. Gold medal match shot to 2.6. That's M1A. The reason I show you this is because it kind of gives an indication what other battle rifles will do. I will call this gun definitely not a 1 MOA shooter, and I would say probably not a 2 MOA shooter. I will call it a 2.5 to 4 MOA shooter. That's realistic of what you're going to shoot, and that's taking your time off a really good rest. and credit the stamped receiver, the 16-inch barrel, no free float, blah, 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 all the stuff we talked about. By reference also, the RFB by Kel-Tec was shooting 2 to 2.5 MOA. So, again, not a sapper. Wrapping it up, kind of. How about accessories? Well, it rocks from here because it is an AK variant rifle. It's a Saiga produced rifle. Once again, that means it has a lot of commonality with a lot of AK parts and accessories. We've discussed a lot already on this gun. You know, check out Tapco. They have a full line of stocks. You know, the G2 triggers out there. Anything you want to change on your Saiga 308. Last time I checked, it would fit. I like how this is configured. I would recommend this exact configuration for the least amount of weight and the most amount of capability without going into stupidness. In other words, like a bunch of weight up here, huge metal rail. That's why I chose a polymer rail. Is it ideal? No, but it's as light as I can go, getting a pick rail up front. You know, I mentioned the Texas Weapon Systems dog leg scope rail. It mounts much lower than this one. There might be some others out there, and it will replace a top cover. It has a proprietary mounting system with repeatability. I recommend it from what I know right now. That's a Texas Weapon Systems dogleg scope rail. And then you've got the SGM accessories there too. The list goes on and on. I could spend 20 minutes on accessories. But like I said, this is configured pretty much at this point the way I would want a 308, at least a Saiga 308 to do. Value. Well, if you could score one of these for around $500 these days, I say don't hesitate, buy it. That's going to be very hard to do because these Saiga 308s, remember we're concentrating on Saiga 308, but I know there's a lot of other chain brains. They come in the United States in batches and they sell out. So you kind of got to be ready. You might go to a secondary market like Gunbroker or something, find one there. Maybe your local area, if they're legal where you live, I hope they are. Join the NRA, stay politically active. Score it, and then you can plan on spending another probably $400 to convert it to the stage you see here, maybe more depending on parts. Is it worth it? I would say yeah, it is. Keep in mind the competition. You know, the Vepr I talked about earlier is going to run $800. That's if you can find it. Comes with a wooden thumbhole stock, which I would throw in the garbage. But it's a proprietary gun. It has a proprietary receiver, takes its own magazines. It's going to present you with more difficulties converting it to 922R compliancy. Granted, it has thicker barrel, thicker receiver, and I think it shoots more accurately than the Saiga 308, the Vepr 308. If you can live with a thumbhole stock, I say rock on, do it. The DSA SA58 is going to be around $1,700. M1A is around $1,500 to $1,600. Kel-Tec RFB is going to be around $1,400. FNAR about those same prices, around $1,200, $1,400. FN17S around $3,000. Some other expensive 308 battle rifles. If you want to just go simple Simon and don't do a dang thing to your sporting configuration Saiga 308, I think you're going to have a huge value of a gun because, heck, $700 for a 308, reliable 308 battle rifle. Rock on. Don't forget those magazines, though. They're going to be about $40 a pop, maybe $50 a pop. How about track record? Well, I'll tell you what. I enjoyed the heck out of shooting this gun, weight notwithstanding. It's a heavy gun, dude. It is. But once it's into position, it's very stable, and it was, actually, I'm so glad I remembered to tell you this, supremely accurate in realistic practical shooting. The Saiga 308. By that I mean in sledgehammer drill. I've shown you the videos. I mean, you talk about a gun that performed very well, whether you're talking about the short stages, the 115-yard stages, or pushing it out to 200 yards, 300 yards, it did well. The Saiga, especially after conversion with the muzzle device, the SGM tactical muzzle device. You know, sounds cool too, shooting. Fun to shoot. Guess that's its own POU. It's just a recreational gun if you can afford to shoot 308. It does ding brass up a little bit. All the Saiga 308s do, but they're still reloadable. I recommend it. Have realistic expectations though. Don't expect it to be a super sniper rifle, a sapper rifle. At least from what I've seen, it just isn't going to be that way. But reliable, with good magazines, absolutely ready to defend your family, ready to defend freedom. That's a Nut and Fancy review. See ya.